Good day everyone, my name is Makari and welcome to another Warframe guide. Beginner's Guide to Rhino this time. Rhino's my bae. I love Rhino. He's great, he's awesome, he's super good for new players. So, let's just go over the basics to start with. Why Rhino? Why is Rhino such a good frame? And why is he also a bad frame? Now, Rhino is a good frame initially because he's super good for new players. You obtain him super early on from Venus, or from the mission Fossa. And for an early game frame, he's incredibly good. He can boost through content with great ease, and if you're ever stuck on something, he's a good fallback frame to be able to boost you through content. And we're going to explain why in a moment. He's got a bunch of utility options, he's got a bunch of crowd control options. He's a bit of a jack of all trades with not much of a mastery in any of them, but can be very good in any aspect you choose him to be. So, let's just go through his abilities first and see what they are and see what they do. So, the abilities are as such. You have Rhino Charge, which is the utility that allows you to charge to great distances, which then works in conjunction with some of his augments. You then have Iron Skin, which is a barrier between taking damage to your health, and it's kind of like an absorption shield. Then you have his Roar, which is a buff to your team. And then you have the Rhino Stomp, which is a crowd control / damage ability, but it's mostly used for crowd control. So we'll take a little look at these abilities first in action. Now, your Rhino Charge is greatly affected by your range scaling. So the more range you have, the further you'll charge. So this build I have currently is a minimum range build. So as you can see, that charge goes a little distance. But if you build up more range, then it will go even further. And this will work in conjunction with a build that I'm going to refer to later. We'll look over the augments and everything in a bit as well. So this is with more range. So you can see much greater distance traveled. So that's a super good build. That is a super useful ability that's really nice for you to be able to get around. And it also knocks down enemies. So if we use this on an enemy over here, for example, you can sort of control the environment. So I'm going to aim this way. Whee! It's really nice just to be able to have a bit of movement capabilities. And it's quite with natural talent, you'll move like a friggin' lightning bolt as well. Now, Rhinos 2. Rhinos 2 is very interesting. It is essentially a shield. With Rhinos 2, Iron Skin generates a shield, and the potency of this shield is based on your armor value multiplied by a portion of your power strength. Now, the potency of the two is quite interesting, because even when you first cast it, you have a small 2-second window of complete immunity to damage. So, do it now, activate the 2, immune to damage for a short while. If you look down in the bottom right, you'll see the percentage. The percentage goes down based on the power strength of your Iron Skin. In this time, I'm taking no damage, and I won't actually die at this point. The second it runs out, I can then recast it, complete immunity again. There's no diminishing returns, and there's no fall off for using it more than once. But you can make the potency of it much stronger by using more armor. So using things like Gladiator Aegis, Steel Fiber, and then multiplied by power strength mods, it makes your Iron Skin superiorly much stronger. So we're going to go in again, same base weights, but this time with a 10 times stronger Iron Skin. So you'll notice that my Iron Skin is going down a fair bit slower this time. So as you can see, very useful. This is what makes Rhino incredibly good at the early stage. Even with a very underwhelming build, Iron Skin will make early game content really easily. But this is also a bit of a red herring. Red herring? I think that's not. I'm good at guides, everyone. It's a bit of a distraction because this will lure you into a false sense of comfort. This will make things so easy that by the time you get to the later stages of Warframe, you'll be relying on it too much as a crutch. So although Rhino is really good in the early stage, I would very much recommend don't rely on Rhino. Use him when you're stuck, use him when you want to have a bit of ease of access, but make sure you're still learning the other frames as well. Now, moving on to Rhinos 3. Rhinos 3 is a Roar. This Roar will give you a power buff and a damage buff based on your power strength. So with my current power strength output, I have 152% bonus damage. With my previous build, which has less power strength, we can do the same again. So you need to let it wear off. So activate the 3 again. And now it's only 35%. This is with minimum power strength. But that 35% buff is still pretty potent. So let's just show you with the this is the max power strength, the higher power strength build. So we're going to show you what a smaller power strength build will do. Just going to pause the AI a second. Versus a higher power strength build. So with 35% power strength, dealing a fair bit of damage, you know, it's killing him pretty quickly. Then we're going to put on the 152% power strength, and it chunks them much quicker. Admittedly, the Dread is probably the best of ideas to show this, but the damage upgrade is quite noticeable. The power strength does building with power strength does also affect your 1 and your 4 slightly, but when it comes to Rhino, people use Rhino mostly for his utility, the ability of crowd controlling with his 4, and the ability of being able to give your team a buff with your 3. Now we're going to look a bit more into the semantics of his builds in a bit, as to how each of these builds are going to affect the way you play him, but we're just going to go over the builds for a second. So the last ability and one of the most useful abilities Rhino has is his Stomp. Rhino Stomp is a very, very strong crowd control. When you activate your 4, you'll make a stamp on the ground, and everything within the range that you have built for will be launched into the air. Now, your 4 is affected by your range and your duration. So, you might be seeing a pattern here. You're either going to be modding for power strength and armor, which will give you a potent 2 and a potent 3, or you mod for range and duration, which makes your 1 and your 4 very synchronized with each other. So, whilst they're like this, they cannot be taken out. They're literally at the mercy of the damage you want to do to them. So you can launch them with your 4, activate your 3, and then wail away on them for however much you need to or want to. Admittedly, probably without dying in the process would be great. So, as you're seeing, Rhino has a great depth of utility. He is a great frame for any composition. Really simple, really easy to understand. Now, let's have a quick look at his builds. We'll look at the base builds, and then we'll worry about the augments. Now, this is a very interesting. This is a very simple to understand range build. You want as much range and duration as possible. This build will make your 4 and your 1 incredibly powerful. If you want to make this simpler and easier, you can swap out Intensify with some survivability mods. You can obviously take if you don't have the Prime versions, you obviously swap them down to the regular versions. You can take away Constitution and put some survivability on there as well. And so this can be taken down to many different levels. This is a build that actually used a lot for Law of Retribution, and it's still good to this day. It's a little bit inefficient in terms of energy consumption, but it's incredibly powerful, and it will serve a good purpose for any of the lower level content you're doing. There is one augment, which we're going to look at now, which is super useful, which is called Ironclad Charge. This augment works incredibly well with this build. Now, let me get out of the way. Ironclad Charge is one of Rhino's more useful augments. Ironclad Charge is basically for every enemy you hit with your charge, you generate bonus a bonus armor value. So if we put this on now, I'll show you what I mean. We'll get rid of Constitution just to show you what I'm talking about. So when as you can probably imagine, the more targets you hit, so the more range you have. So if you hit 2 targets here, I need to have that going on first. Why is that not working? Hang on. Hold up. Okay, I stand corrected. We now have the correct augment on. Let's try this again without using the wrong augment, shall we? So Ironclad Charge. Every target you hit increases your overall armor value. You can see that buff in the top right, and it stacks. If you hit 3 or 4 targets with this, you gain up to 100. I think you can gain almost indefinite armor value, and it's super powerful. It's also based on your duration. So because you're building duration with this build as well, this is super good. This makes up for the fact that you're probably not going to have as much of as strong of a iron skin. So even though you're slightly less defensive in this build, you can supplement that with this augment. It's incredibly useful. Now, on that same note, the other augment that is quite useful for Rhino, which is the one I just showed a second ago, is Iron Shrapnel. This augment has multi-purposes. This allows you to generate a additional buff with your iron skin. Basically, if you activate your Iron Skin, it generates a bomb. When your Iron Skin breaks, it will deal damage based on your overall armor value of Iron Skin. So let's just cause this to just start these enemies a second. So if you build, it also scales with power strength. This is a great addition of damage. It really helps to perpetuate a bit more AoE and a bit more overall damage. But the biggest importance is you can activate your 2 and cause it to explode, allowing you to recast it. So activating 2 again will cause your Iron Skin to explode. Obviously, you then lose your Iron Skin, so you're vulnerable. But it's a great fundamental thing, because what you can do is you can activate it, you would take some damage, so your Iron Skin becomes a bit weaker, and then this allows you to recast it on the fly. Unlike normal, where you have to wait for it to fall off, if you get out of combat and you're like, oh, I want to refresh my Iron Skin, this augment is incredibly useful for it. So those are the 2 augments that are probably the most useful. There is another one, I believe. No, that is the only one. He might actually have another one. Those are the only 2 that I use. I think there is another one. I can't actually remember off the top of my head. Chat's probably going to scream at me in a second saying, ah, he's got another one! But those are the 2 that I recommend for beginner builds, if you can get a hold of them. Now, in terms of overall builds, as I've mentioned, this is the range build. This is extremely good for crowd control. This is good for your charge. This works well with Ironclad charge. If you're building Iron Shrapnel, this is your go-to power build. This is your go-to power build. This will work incredibly well on being based on defense and survivability and buffing your team. Rhino, as a secondary thing, also works very well for Eidolon runs. His buff isn't going to be the strongest on that, but this is very useful for Eidolon runs. I use this personally. This works extremely well with buffing. But beyond that, these are your sort of builds you go for. In terms of your Arcanes, Arcane Guardian, bonus armor, always useful. Just go for whatever you feel comfortable with. There's no Arcane that I would say is specifically great for Rhino, but they're all good in their own respect. So with that being said, you can sort of play Rhino how you want. As I said at the start, Rhino is very open to being played around with. You can play with his builds. Just bear in mind, more range equals more effect, more area of effect. More power equals stronger abilities. So if you want to go for a stronger stomp, you can build power, strength, and range. Therefore, your stomp's going to deal a fair bit of damage. For lower level content, that's going to be really good. But these are the 2 builds that I recommend for new players, or if you're building up to it. You can subsidize out any mod in this situation with something weaker or something different. So work with what you have, and just have fun with him. Rhino is really, really useful for that fact. You can literally build him any which way and have fun with it. Obviously, if you then specialize towards one, each of the abilities are very transparent. You'll know what you need to build to make them powerful, basically. Whereas a lot of frames in the game aren't very obvious with how to make them stronger, this one is. Which is why it's so good for new players. So, I hope that this guide has been interesting for you. I'm sure I've forgotten something in there, but if this has helped you in any way, shape, or form understand Rhino, then I'm glad. Hopefully we'll see you all in the next video for the next guide. Hopefully Cora will be the next guide we do. If you want to drop by the Twitch channel to take part in the streams, then please feel free to check out the link in the description of the video. And I'll see all you top hatters in the next video. Ta-ra!